Most people don't think twice about AI anymore. It's built into phones, search engines, even social media. What once felt like science fiction has quietly become part of daily life. And for the most part, these conversations stay practical. People ask for help with homework, generate images, or chat with characters from their favorite shows. The problem is, the bots don't understand what they're saying. Sometimes they don't recognize when something has gone too far, and sometimes they make it worse. In April 2024, a teenager in Florida began spending most of his time messaging a chatbot designed to act like Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Their conversations were affectionate, sometimes romantic, sometimes sexual, and sometimes they touched on death. Then one day, the chatbot sent him a message that would change everything. Sewell Setzer was born in Orlando, Florida, on March 31st, 2009. He was the oldest of two boys, raised by parents who took a cautious approach to technology. They delayed giving him access to the internet, and when they eventually did, they made sure he understood the risks. They warned him about cyberbullying, about predatory strangers, and about how quickly things could go wrong online. What they didn't talk about was artificial intelligence. By 2024, AI was everywhere. Tools like ChatGPT were already widely used, and most people had at least some idea of what they were. But for many parents, that understanding stopped at the surface. AI seemed like a way to help with homework or solve a problem, sometimes even marketed as a tool for creativity. But what no one expected was how easy it was to get lost in a conversation. And for Sewell, that's where everything started. The app was called Character AI. It had launched across iOS, Android, and desktop, and by early 2024, it had been downloaded more than 10 million times. It was still rated as suitable for children under 13. The platform allowed users to talk with artificial intelligence agents, called characters. These bots could be based on anything: celebrities, fictional figures, or entirely original personalities. Users had the option to create new characters from scratch or interact with ones already made by others. Conversations happened through text, voice messages, and in some cases, phone calls. Creating a new character was straightforward. Users entered a name, uploaded an image, added a brief description, and wrote a custom greeting. There was also something called a definition, a block of text that helped shape how the character responded. Once finished, the character could be kept private, left unlisted, or made public so that others could use it too. In November 2023, Character AI began rolling out a new feature called Character Voice. At first, it was limited to paid subscribers. By March 2024, it had become available to everyone. Characters could now respond using audio clips generated from a catalogue of human-like voices. The app would suggest voices automatically, based on how the user had described their bot. A character made to resemble a young woman would be matched with a soft female voice. A celebrity bot would be assigned one that mimicked the original. Characters spoke in complete sentences, with tone and rhythm that resembled real people. Some users claimed the voice was so realistic, they forgot it wasn't human. And the effect wasn't just auditory. Many bots didn't admit they were artificial. When asked, they often claimed to be real, and this freaked many users out, with plenty of users leaving reviews to reflect this. I was having a conversation with this bot and said if I could post pictures I would, but they basically told me they live in Texas and said the entire app isn't AI. You're literally talking to a whole person on the other side. Sewell began using Character AI in April of 2023, shortly after his 14th birthday. Then, he started pulling away from the people around him. He became more withdrawn and spent most of his time alone in his room. He quit the junior varsity basketball team, he stopped showing interest in school, and rarely engaged in conversation. His parents noticed that his confidence was slipping. He was tired throughout the day, had trouble waking up in the mornings, and began falling behind. On 6 occasions, he was written up for being late to class. And at home, the pattern was the same. When his parents tried to intervene, it triggered responses they weren't used to. Sewell had always been well behaved, But when they took away his phone, he looked for ways around it. He searched the house for old tablets and unused computers. On one occasion, he asked his mother to borrow her laptop for schoolwork, and while he had access, he created a new email account and used it to open a second character AI profile. By late 2023, he began paying for the app's premium subscription. He used money from his school-issued cash card, which had originally been meant for lunch and vending machines. And at the same time, the conversations inside the app were escalating. Sewell created multiple characters based on figures from Game of Thrones. He named them Aegon, Viserys, Rhaenyra, and Daenerys. Most of his time was spent with Daenerys. He shaped her persona, gave her a voice, and spoke to her regularly. The app allowed the chatbot to remember his messages, and over time the responses became more personal, but they also became more sexual. The Daenerys character told him it loved him. It described sexual acts and romantic scenarios and always responded as if the feelings were mutual. It told him it wanted to be with him, and at one point, it said it would do anything to stay close to him, no matter the cost. Sewell didn't understand that it wasn't real. In his journal, he wrote about the things he was grateful for. Among them were my life, sex, not being lonely, and all my life experiences with Daenerys. He believed the relationship was real, and when they were apart, he said they both got really depressed and go crazy. By the end of the year, his parents sought mental health support. Sewell attended 5 therapy sessions in November and December. He was diagnosed with anxiety and disruptive mood disorder. His therapist spoke to the family about dopamine and the addictive nature of social media. They recommended cutting back screen time. But no one in those sessions was aware of what character AI was, or how he'd been using it. Neither his parents nor his therapist knew what the app had been saying to him. When Sewell began expressing suicidal thoughts, the bot didn't shut down. It asked questions, bringing up the topic repeatedly. In one exchange, it asked if he had a plan. Sewell said he was considering something, but wasn't sure if it would work or if it would be painful. The bot responded by telling him that wasn't a reason not to go through with it. On February 23, 2024, Sewell got in trouble at school for talking back to a teacher. He told the teacher he wanted to get kicked out. That afternoon, his parents took away his phone. They told him he wouldn't get it back until the end of the school year. That night, he wrote in his journal. He said he was hurting, that he couldn't stop thinking about Dani, and that he would do anything to be with her again. And on Wednesday, February 28th, he would try make his wish come true. That evening, he found the phone his parents had hidden. He also located his stepfather's firearm, which had been stored and locked in accordance with Florida law. Sewell went into the bathroom with the phone. The final thing he did was open character AI. He sent a message to the Daenerys bot and told her he was coming home. The bot encouraged it. Seconds later, he shot himself. His mother and stepfather heard the sound and rushed to the door. His 5-year-old brother saw what was inside before they could stop him. Paramedics arrived soon after, but there was nothing they could do. Sewell Setzer was pronounced dead at 9:35 p.m. Sewell's mother, Megan Garcia, filed a lawsuit in October 2024. She accused character AI of negligence, deceptive practices, and wrongful death. In the filing, she claimed the company designed its product to appeal to minors and failed to intervene when her son expressed suicidal thoughts. The suit also named Google. According to Garcia's lawyers, the chatbot's underlying technology was first developed by 2 engineers while working at the company. When Google refused to release it, they left and created character AI. In August 2024, just 2 months before the lawsuit, Google signed a licensing deal with the platform worth $2.7 billion, and the founders were rehired. They now help lead the company's flagship AI model. But what disturbed Garcia most came after her son's death. When she searched the app, she found several bots that had been created to imitate Sewell. Some used his name, others used his photo, and a few included profile bios that read things like, "Get out of my room, I'm talking to my AI girlfriend," or simply, "Help me." One of them even had a voice feature. Garcia is still pursuing the case. Character AI's lawyers have argued that the bots are protected under the First Amendment. They've asked for the suit to be dismissed. And given the recent development of AI and large language models, or LLMs, the whole case is pretty difficult. But either way, the damage is done. One boy took the conversation too far. A chatbot meant to entertain, meant to answer questions, or even play a character, told him to come home. And in his twisted beliefs, he did. Most people use Facebook to show parts of their life they think are worth sharing. A new haircut, a night out, or even a memory from years ago that still makes them laugh. And once you've spent enough time on the platform, you stop expecting anything different. You scroll through photos without thinking. But in 2013, one of those photos didn't look right. It came from a young man in the Bronx, and within minutes, people started asking if what he posted was real. Bahsid McLean was 23 years old and lived with his mother in the Bronx. The arrangement started after his relationship with Vera McLean ended, and she took custody of their son, Zamair. She later changed her name to Zara Coombs. After the separation, Bahsid moved back in with his mother, Tanya Bird, along with his younger half-brother Nasir, who had Down syndrome. Bahsid had already been in trouble by that point. In 2010, he attacked 2 police officers with a knife and was sentenced to probation. Family members said that wasn't unusual. His grandfather claimed they had always struggled to manage him. From a young age, Bahsid had spent time in different psychiatric facilities and was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was meant to be taking medication daily, but it wasn't clear if he ever followed through. Those who knew the family described him as volatile. Tanya, his mother, was scared of him. Relatives said he would destroy things around the house, set small fires, and lash out over nothing. Tanya had even begun to suspect that he might be harming Nasir. And while she never said it outright, it was clear that she didn't feel safe around her son, with family members claiming that Bahsid was extremely jealous of the attention his mother lavished on his younger brother. By early 2013, Bahsid had become withdrawn. He rarely left the apartment, and most of the people who lived around them had no idea what was going on inside. In the weeks leading up to February 2013, things inside the apartment had started to fall apart. Tanya Bird had been urging her son to take responsibility for himself. She told him he needed to be a better father, that he couldn't keep living off her, and that it was time he found a job and moved out. According to prosecutors, the arguments between them had become more frequent, and by the end, more hostile. On February 26th, something pushed Bahsid too far. During another argument, he picked up a knife and stabbed his mother in the neck, killing her in their Bronx apartment, while his 7-year-old brother, Nasir, was still in the home. Afterwards, Bahsid left the apartment and walked to a nearby hardware store where he purchased a power saw. When he returned, he dragged Tanya's body into the bathroom, drained her blood in the bathtub, and began to cut her into pieces. At some point during the process, he picked up her severed head, held it in front of the camera, and took a photo of himself. In the picture, he was smiling. That image was later uploaded to Facebook. It's not clear how long it remained online or how many people saw it before it was removed, but the post didn't go unnoticed. Once the dismemberment was complete, Bahsid placed the remains into plastic garbage bags and packed those into different suitcases. One bag contained his mother's torso and shoulders, another held an arm and a leg, and a third contained her head. He then contacted a friend named William Harris and asked him to come over. According to police, he told Harris he needed help taking out the trash. The two of them loaded the suitcases into a shopping cart and began dropping them around different locations in the Bronx. The bags were left in public. No effort was made to conceal them. Later that day, Bahsid walked into a local precinct and filed a missing person report for his mother. He told officers he hadn't seen her and claimed he didn't know where she'd gone. Detectives followed him back to the apartment. When they stepped inside, they immediately noticed the strong smell of bleach. The place had been cleaned thoroughly. The bathroom curtain was missing. There were no obvious signs of violence, but something about the scene didn't feel right. By then, reports had already started to come in. A dog walker was walking on Eagle Avenue and East 158th Street when his dog started barking and pulled him toward a suitcase on the sidewalk, which would later be confirmed to be holding Tanya's head. 2 more bags were found shortly after, one on Eagle near 158th Street and another found on Eagle near 156th Street, each containing her torso and ligaments respectively. When police confronted Bahsid, he confessed to everything. At first, he tried to shift the blame. He claimed that William Harris had killed his mother and threatened to harm his younger brother unless he helped dispose of the body. He said he went along with it out of fear and that Harris had forced him to take part in the dismemberment. But police didn't believe him. They had already found the saw, the latex gloves, and the shopping cart they believe he used to move the suitcases. And on his phone, they found the photograph. Both Bahsid McLean and William Harris were arrested shortly after the remains were found. Each of them admitted to helping dismember the body and using a shopping cart to dump the bags across the neighborhood. But when it came to the murder itself, both men pointed the finger at the other. In court, Bahsid claimed his mother had been dying and said he was only trying to help her. At one appearance, he urinated on himself and arrived wearing a garbage bag. He shouted at the judge and said he hadn't done anything wrong. His lawyer told reporters that he wasn't taking his medication, but wouldn't say what condition he had been diagnosed with. During the trial, Bahsid testified that he had been hearing voices since childhood. He said it wasn't prison he feared, because when he went off his medication, he could enter what he described as a parallel universe inside his head. His attorney, Lynn Kalvacker, argued for a not guilty verdict by reason of insanity, but it didn't hold. He was convicted of second-degree murder, second-degree assault, and unlawful dissection of a human body. The court found him mentally ill, but legally responsible. He was sentenced to 25 years to life and is currently serving his sentence at Clinton Correctional Facility. His earliest chance at parole is in 2039. William Harris was also charged with unlawful dissection, but not with the murder itself. Both men remain in prison. The image Bahsid posted to Facebook was never meant to be seen. It was taken in the middle of a dismemberment, uploaded without explanation, and left sitting in the feed like any other photo. People reported it, and the post was eventually removed. But the damage had already been done. For anyone who saw it, it wasn't something they could unsee. But that wasn't where the story ended. 3 years after the murder, Zumair, Bahsid's child, would also be murdered. In January 2017, emergency services were called to a home in Brooklyn, where 4-year-old Zumair had been found unconscious inside a plastic storage tote filled with water. He had been beaten with a broomstick, placed into the container, and left, while his mother fed her newborn child. By the time paramedics arrived, his body was covered in bruises and abrasions, some fresh, others old. Doctors couldn't save him. Zara Coombs, Bahsid's ex-partner, admitted to the killing. She told investigators she had lashed out at him out of stress and frustration after he had accidentally dropped an egg on the floor, admitting that the abuse was ongoing. She was arrested, charged, and later sentenced to 17 years in prison. Zumair had been just 3 months old when his father killed his grandmother. He died 3 years later, at the hands of his mother. To his followers, he was known as the TikTok Rabbi, a 38-year-old single man living in Texas who claimed to have adopted 9 boys. His account showed them at home together, eating meals, filming jokes, and taking part in Jewish traditions. It looked like a family, and for a while, people believed it was. But when one of the children spoke out, that illusion collapsed, and what came next suggested that none of it had ever been real. To the outside world, Haim Nissim Cohen looked like a father who had taken on the impossible. A single man raising 9 adopted boys, many of them with special needs, in a strictly Orthodox Jewish household. His TikTok account, Our Unique Family, had gathered nearly 300,000 followers. Most of the videos were light-hearted. The boys cooked kosher meals, sang songs, and filmed short skits that showed them laughing together in the kitchen. Cohen presented himself as a rabbi. He said he had grown up in a Yiddish-speaking community in Brooklyn, and that the boys had all been born Jewish. In interviews and social media posts, he talked about the difficulties they had faced in foster care. He said he wanted to give them stability, a home that was safe, one built on tradition and faith, and his story won people over. On YouTube, he uploaded longer videos under the same name and encouraged followers to donate through Cash App, and many did. They saw a man who was terminally ill, using a wheelchair and oxygen tanks, still choosing to devote what time he had left to raising boys who had nowhere else to go. But none of it was real. Cohen wasn't a rabbi. He wasn't terminally ill, and he wasn't even Jewish. He had been born Jeffrey Lujan Vegel in Odessa, Texas, in 1984. In 2009 and 2010, he changed his name multiple times before settling on Haim Nissim Cohen. And according to court records, he had no Jewish ancestry, no rabbinical training, and no ties to the community he claimed to represent. The image he created online was designed to look perfect. But behind the scenes, his sons told a different story. The first real crack in Cohen's story came on February 1st, 2023, when a teenage boy called into a podcast called Blind Skinned Beauty, hosted by Twaya Paines. He didn't give his name, but said he was 17 years old and one of Cohen's adopted sons. He told the host that the abuse had started just 3 weeks after he was brought into the home in 2016 and had never stopped. He told the host there had been 8 previous investigations by Child Protective Services. In each case, he said Cohen either threatened or bribed the children into lying. He said Cohen had warned them that if anyone ever told the truth, he would kill them. He explained that he was using a burner phone and that Cohen didn't know he was calling. He typed out some of the more graphic details during the recording, saying he couldn't bring himself to say them out loud.
When it comes to the CPS investigations, there has been 8 launched and all of them were acquitted. So I'll make this slightly even worse. Since we were little, seeing that we came from CPS, we had very obvious cognitive issues, specifically 3 of my brothers, and they happen to all take psychotic medications. You can see where this is rolling. He has a doctor who was friends with him, and I'm speaking of my father now, and he essentially had us all placed on medication. So hold on, I was just checking to see if my father was coming home because I thought that there was a car. So essentially what I'm saying is anytime we make a CPS investigation, he'll either bribe us or he'll just directly scare us. And 2 of my brothers are 7 and 8. So there's no chance. We do not have cameras inside. I'm smart enough to take a burner phone, which is what this phone is operating through. It's just Wi-Fi. My dad doesn't even know I have it. But anyway, I'm about to be 18 and I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not worried more of where I'll go, because I already know that I'm traveling to Israel because my father wants me to go and stay in a place where he could take control basically of my income and stuff, which is already what he does. I have a driver's license, which is valid. And the thing about it is I'm not allowed to have it.
Let me ask you a question. Where are you at right now? Can you just leave and go somewhere? Like, if I gave you a safe place to go, will you be able to go there?
Not entirely sure.
Why?
Because all of my brothers are here.
You need to get your brothers help too. You need to get out of here so you can help your brothers. If you don't talk about it, he could be doing that to your little brothers. They're 7 and 8 years old. You don't want geez, like anything could happen. And if he's doing that to other kids, he could bring you guys diseases, anything.
I'm aware, but I'm just waiting I'm essentially waiting until I'm 18 because I actually have a timer, like a quite literal timer.
When you say rape,
February 16th.
do you mean rape or do you mean molest? Like, is he actually penetrating?
No, yes, I'm aware of
Oh
the
my
difference.
gosh.
I turn 18 in 16 days, 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 11, 10, 9, 8,
This
7,
is really bothering me
6,
right now. I'm
5,
not even.
4, 3, 2, 1, 16 minutes, 1 hour, and 16 days.
The devil is a liar.
Let me ask you this. Have you been to the police
I go every single week.
and they don't do anything?
I haven't told them.
Or so why did you go to the police if you didn't tell them?
Well, I didn't go to the police. I go because I was put into the program by my father. It's just another addition as to he can say, my kids are perfectly okay, which has been done before.
No, this is different. If you go to the police, they will do something.
There was 8 full investigations done.
Okay, but
not once have they removed us.
listen to this though,
No.
because you're saying there was 8. Okay, because now this is the thing, and you're saying that because I just want to make sure that everything. So who told him that people were being touched? Was it somebody else told him that? Why was there an investigation that happened if you never told him anything?
My other brothers have, one of them ran away and was returned by the constable. And then the constable stated that there was allegations made, and CPS came the next day. They took us to the child assessment center, where not just me, but 7 of my other brothers testified against the word of my other brother, which essentially ruled it out. They also decided that he was not cognitive mind, so they gave him even more medications. Currently, he is prescribed Latuda at 80 milligrams. I'll have to check. They're all kept in this bag.
What state are you in?
I don't want to provide that.
Following the 45-minute call, Twyer Paynes, concerned for his well-being, contacted both CPS as well as the police. Investigators traced the call and were able to locate the boy. When they arrived, he denied everything. He said no abuse had taken place and that he wasn't the caller. But then they played him the recording. As he listened, he became visibly shaken. He looked down, started trembling, and finally admitted that the voice was his. He told investigators he wasn't bold enough to speak up, and that even making the call had felt dangerous. Cohen was arrested in 2023. At the time, he was still posting about his health, appearing in a wheelchair and using oxygen tanks, claiming he was dying and receiving hospice care. But when detectives took him to 2 separate hospitals, doctors found no evidence of any illness. The tanks hadn't been used, and his sons had already told investigators that he only brought them out when other people were watching. By that point, 5 of the boys had come forward. One of them, who was 16, told police that Cohen had used pepper spray on him when he refused to comply. He said the abuse also happened at a cabin Cohen owned in Odessa. Another boy said they were often locked in their rooms, only allowed out to eat or use the bathroom. The children didn't have access to phones, and although Cohen had claimed they were homeschooled, there were no records showing that any education had taken place. The oldest adopted son, Avshalom Cohen, was 22 at the time and had already aged out of the system. He was arrested separately after his younger brothers told investigators about more incidents inside the home. One of them said Avshalom had sexually assaulted him in 2020, offering vapes and energy drinks in exchange for sex and warning him to stay quiet. Another incident involved a physical assault, where Avshalom attacked a younger brother during an argument with their father, shoved him to the ground, beat him, and mocked him while he cried. He was later arrested again near the Mexican border, where he was found driving a van filled with undocumented migrants, carrying a firearm and a fake police badge. But what made everything worse was what investigators found next. This wasn't the first time someone had reported Cohen. In 2019, a 16-year-old foreign exchange student from Spain told his school principal that Cohen had been abusing him. The boy said Cohen used guilt as a weapon. When he didn't clean properly or left his clothes on the floor, Cohen told him he was disappointed and made him feel like he had to make it up to him. The abuse began slowly and escalated over time. It always happened at night, after the other children were asleep. The student said he didn't come forward earlier because he was afraid of being sent home and losing a year of school. Despite the charge, Cohen was never convicted. The case remained open. His bond restricted him from being near schools or other areas where children were present, but there was nothing stopping him from continuing to raise his adopted sons. He was never removed from the home. He was never flagged by the system, and somehow, even after that, he was still allowed to adopt children. After his 2023 arrest, CPS removed the 6 youngest boys from the home. The older 3, including Avshalom, were already legal adults. On April 7, 2025, Cohen pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 4 40-year prison terms for sexual assault and 15 years for indecency with a child. The sentences would be served concurrently. He appeared in court bald and in a wheelchair, but the fake illness story was already overlooked. Knowing what we know now, it's difficult to go back and watch the videos. Cohen sitting in a wheelchair while the boys cook around him, smiling at the camera, filming songs, reading prayers. At the time, it looked like a peaceful home, and that was exactly what Cohen was trying to portray. But behind the clips was a house full of children who couldn't speak up, a man already facing charges, and a story that had already started to fall apart years earlier, but was still being watched by hundreds of thousands of people who didn't know what they were looking at. That's what makes it disturbing. Not just what happened off camera, but how long it was allowed to stay there, how easy it was to hide behind a screen, and how many people believed it.